You're independent until you forget you're human. You don't ask for help. You don't want to bother anyone. You carry everything yourself silently, efficiently. Congratulations, you've unlocked hard mode. But at some point even machines break down. And you're not a machine. You're human. You just keep forgetting that part. Hyper-independence isn't strength, it's armor. You say you've got it all handled, that you're fine, that you don't need anything, anyone, or any kind of help. You've probably said it so many times that people stopped offering. But the truth is that independence, so admirable on the surface, didn't grow out of confidence or peace. It was forged in fire, sculpted by moments where you reached out and no one came. Where the people you counted on disappointed you, ignored you, or taught you, sometimes cruelly, that asking was dangerous. Over time you learned the lesson: if you need no one, then no one can disappoint you. If you expect nothing, you can't be hurt. What began as resilience quietly hardened into hyper-independence, a coping mechanism disguised as maturity. It looks like strength, but it feels like isolation. You tell yourself it's freedom, but it's actually fear dressed in armor. A quiet fear that if you ever do rely on someone, they'll let you down. Again, this is the side of independence that no one talks about. The kind that doesn't feel empowering but exhausting. The kind that turns every relationship into a potential liability. The kind that makes vulnerability feel unsafe, even dangerous. Somewhere along the way, needing help became synonymous with weakness. So now even when you're drowning, you smile. You say, "I got it," because asking for support feels riskier than suffering alone. This form of self-reliance becomes so ingrained, so automatic, that you start confusing it with who you are. You forget it's something you built. You forget you weren't born this way. Hyper-independence isn't a personality trait. It's an emotional defense system. It's a wall. A barrier designed to protect the most sensitive parts of you. But walls don't just keep harm out. They also keep connection out. And in the process of protecting yourself, you also shut yourself off from love, intimacy, and rest. Eventually, you reach a point where even receiving kindness feels uncomfortable. You've grown so used to carrying everything alone that being seen, being cared for, feels alien. Maybe even suspicious. And the most dangerous part. The world often praises it. You're labeled strong, reliable, low maintenance. No one sees the cost. No one asks what it's costing you to always be the one who never needs anything. The emotional burnout of never allowing yourself to fall apart. You've built your identity on being unbreakable. But being human was never meant to be a solo mission. Deep down, that version of independence you wear like armor. It's not protecting you anymore. It's trapping you. You weren't meant to carry it all alone. You were just made to believe that was the only way to stay safe. 2. Evolution built us for tribe, not isolation. You like to think you're self-sufficient, that needing others is optional, maybe even weak. But your brain doesn't agree. Deep beneath all that logic and independence, there's a blueprint running that's millions of years old, and it's not built for going solo. Evolution didn't design humans to survive alone. From the beginning, survival meant tribe. It meant closeness, cooperation, mutual protection. We didn't hunt alone. We didn't raise children alone. We didn't grieve alone. And when someone was cast out from the group, their odds of surviving plummeted. Your body still remembers that. That's why a breakup feels like death. That's why being left on red can spike your cortisol. That's why loneliness can actually activate pain centers in the brain, the same ones that respond to physical injury. To your ancient nervous system, disconnection equals danger. So when you isolate yourself in the name of independence, part of your brain quietly panics. It doesn't understand that you're doing this on purpose. It only knows something feels off. You might notice it as this background anxiety you can't name, or as tension you carry in your jaw, shoulders, chest. You feel tired all the time, even when you sleep. You feel overstimulated but also empty. Your brain is scanning for danger and finding none, which ironically makes it more anxious. Because in the tribe, stillness meant something was wrong. So your ancient alarm system rings louder, assuming it's missed something. It's like your nervous system is looking around, whispering, "Where's everyone else? Why am I alone?" And you try to answer logically, telling yourself it's fine, that you're strong, that you don't need anyone. But biology doesn't run on logic. It runs on connection, on oxytocin, on eye contact, on touch, on laughter shared, not consumed through a screen. That's why FaceTime doesn't really fix it. That's why social media leaves you feeling more hollow than full. Because your body knows the difference between real closeness and pixelated substitutes. The more you avoid vulnerability, the more your nervous system suffers. Because vulnerability is how we bonded, how we formed trust, how we became safe in the group. The irony is the very thing that feels dangerous letting others in is the thing that regulates your system. Your breath, your heartbeat, your sense of calm. So when you find yourself wired but tired, emotionally exhausted but socially distant, remember it's not because you're broken. It's because you're still running a very old program on very new problems. And independence, no matter how glorified it is, was never meant to replace belonging. You can be strong. You can be capable. But even the strongest need connection. Not because they're weak, but because they're human. And no matter how much you tell yourself you're fine on your own, your nervous system knows the truth. You weren't built for isolation. You were built for tribe. 3. Why you can't rest even when you're alone. You finally get a moment alone. No deadlines, no noise, no one asking for anything. It should feel like peace, but instead it feels wrong. Your brain keeps pacing even when your body sits still. You check your phone for no reason. You open a tab, then close it. You start cleaning something that was already clean. Because when you've lived in survival mode for too long, stillness doesn't register as safety. It registers as threat. You've trained yourself to equate productivity with worth, motion with control. So now the absence of pressure feels like something's missing. And that something is stress. Your nervous system is so used to running on high alert that calm feels unfamiliar, even unsafe. This is what happens when hyper-independence meets burnout. You've spent so long earning your right to exist through output that when there's nothing left to do, your brain whispers you're useless now. You think you're relaxing, but really you're judging yourself for not being useful. Somewhere deep down, you believe rest has to be deserved. That taking a break without first being exhausted is lazy. That doing nothing is irresponsible. But this isn't your fault. You were likely raised in a culture that worships hustle and treats exhaustion like a badge of honor, where being tired is proof of effort and rest is a guilty pleasure instead of a human need. So when you finally get time to pause, your inner critic shows up with a checklist. Have you done enough to rest? Have you been productive enough, helpful enough, perfect enough? If the answer is no, the guilt creeps in. You don't breathe deeply, you brace. You don't stretch, you scroll. You're not alone. You're just undisturbed long enough to hear the background noise in your own head. And that noise says keep moving. Because the second you stop, the weight of everything you've been suppressing starts to surface. The sadness, the fatigue, the loneliness, the pressure. You've spent so long running that rest feels like being caught. But the truth is, rest isn't weakness. It's a biological need. Your brain needs downtime. Your body needs softness. Your heart needs silence that doesn't come with shame. The more you avoid rest, the more your body will demand it through migraines, through burnout, through emotional outbursts that seem to come out of nowhere. That's not failure. That's your system breaking the silence for you. You weren't made to run like a machine. You're not here just to meet deadlines, hold others up, and prove your worth through exhaustion. You're human. And humans don't earn rest. They require it. The discomfort you feel when doing nothing isn't a flaw, it's a symptom. A sign that you've been going too hard for too long with too little softness. And it's time to unlearn the guilt of slowing down. 4. The cost of carrying it all alone. You've become the person everyone depends on but no one checks in with. You show up, hold space, solve problems, keep things afloat. You're the rock. The steady one. The strong one. And somewhere along the way you made that your whole identity. Not because you wanted to, but because you thought you had to. Somewhere in your past you learned that falling apart wasn't an option. So now even when you're barely holding it together, you smile. You downplay your pain. You keep going because stopping feels like failing. You carry your own weight and often other people's too. And no one notices. Not because they don't care, but because you've gotten so good at making it look easy. You've trained them to believe you're always fine, and now you're exhausted. But exhaustion is hard to explain when you haven't done anything extra. It's the weight of emotional labor, the invisible kind. The energy it takes to pretend to care, to manage everyone's expectations while never voicing your own. You say you don't need anything, but that's not true. You just stopped expecting your needs to be met. You've internalized the idea that needing is a burden and vulnerability is dangerous. So you shrink yourself. You make yourself convenient. You give without asking. You stay quiet to keep the peace. And slowly that silence eats away at your connection to yourself. You forget what it feels like to be known without earning it. To be loved without performing. To be supported without having to first prove you're worthy. You wake up tired. You smile on autopilot. You answer, "I'm good," before the question even lands. And when someone does offer support, you flinch. You don't know how to receive. Compliments make you uncomfortable. Kindness feels suspicious. Because for so long, love only came with conditions: be useful, be perfect, be quiet. That conditional love shaped your definition of safety. Now anything softer feels risky. This isn't strength. This is self-abandonment in disguise. And it comes with a cost. The cost is disconnection. From others. From your body. From your emotions. The cost is chronic fatigue, emotional numbness, and a life where you're always functioning but never fully living. Hyper-independence promises control, but what it really delivers is loneliness. You've built a fortress so strong no one can reach you, not even you. And even if someone does knock you, don't open the door, because you forgot how. And maybe you're scared that if you finally let go, everything will fall apart. But maybe, just maybe, if you let someone in, you wouldn't have to fall apart alone. You could fall and still be held. Not because you're weak, but because you're human. And humans were never meant to carry it all alone. You don't need to stop being strong. You just need to stop believing that strength means silence. You're not weak for needing people. You're just human, and that's enough.